Welcome everybody to my channel. Today's pick a card reading is looking at what you need to express or say to either a particular person, a group of people, or if you're a creative person, maybe to your audience. So we're really focusing on the throat chakra and on opening that up to express what is necessary. This could be about what you need to say to mend a relationship, start a relationship, progress a relationship. It could be around your work with a manager or teammates. It could be as a creative person with your audience. It could be something with a family member or a friend. Whatever it is, we'll be looking at the nature of what you need to express for your highest good and the audience and likely reactions so that Spirit can give you the best possible advice to express what you need to express and in a way that is received and acted upon for your highest good and the highest good of the other people involved. So, as with all pick a card readings, the important thing is to connect in with the energy of the reading, and you may have any number of ways of doing that. Some people respond to crystal energy, so for those that do, I have an amethyst crystal on pile 1, I have a dragon's blood crystal on pile 2, and I have a lapis lazuli crystal on pile 3. Others may connect in with numbers or just be drawn to a particular deck, and some of you may need to pause the video and meditate on that to get the sense of which one to go to. It's of course fine to go to more than one if you're not sure, or if you feel drawn to more than one, there may be more than one person or group of people that you need to express something to, and so there may be messages in more than one reading for you. This is probably going to be a potentially sensitive sort of topic, so I would definitely say to you, take what resonates, leave the rest. These are collective readings, and even if a large chunk of the reading fits for you, don't try and retrofit something that doesn't feel right, because then your message won't be clear in the way that you need it to be. So remember that it's collective, but take from this what is helpful to you and leave the rest. So, as always, once you know which reading or readings you want to go to, the timestamps are in the description box below, and when you know, I'll see you there. Welcome pile 1 to your reading. These cards were under the crystal that you chose to come here, as were these cards which are off to the side and were intuitively chosen for your reading ahead of time. We'll also be shuffling and looking at tarot and other oracles as we go along. These cards are meant to represent you and your message and the audience. So we just get a sense across the board of the nature of the type of communication we're talking about. And as I said in the introduction, this could fit any number of types of scenarios, from a one-to-one communication to something that's with a group or even to an audience. So I'll try and touch upon each of those before we get into the tarot. What this suggests to me, a very strong sense I get looking at this, is that for many of you, I think this is about you being a friend to someone or a support to someone. In some cases, it might be that your audience is actually you as well, and it might be supporting yourself. And if you're in a creative scenario, there might be something that you're doing around the issue, which I'll discuss in a second, that will help others who need to feel better and understand things and see the good in life. The reason I say that is that you have the card called Mend a Broken Heart Fairy, and in this deck that card is about getting over disappointments in love or relationships or in life in general. So it generally comes up when you need to take time out and look after yourself. So there could be, for some of you, that you're needing to say to others. Over here with the ghost of the pumpkin patch, it's an energy of someone who feels invisible or not seen. You may need to say to some people in your life, I need time out, I can't be there for you. Or you may in fact be taking the role of the Mend a Broken Heart Fairy, and you're trying to help a friend or a family member or a loved one get over some form of disappointment, because this energy is about feeling almost invisible. So it looks like your audience feels almost invisible in some way. That's why I'm saying I wonder whether for some of you, your own audience, you are your own audience potentially. If you're going through getting over some form of heartbreak, you may need to be much more gentle with yourself and take time out and really see yourself. You may be someone who puts a lot of energy into other people And so it feels a bit weird to turn that energy and that kindness and that gentleness onto yourself. But for others, you are around someone who's been going through heartache or who feels invisible, or you're around someone who isn't respecting your boundaries when you need to go through something because they need to be seen, heard, and paid attention to all the time. So to some degree, it depends on whether or not this card is operating in a positive way or whether it's operating in a demanding way. So I think for some of my pile one, you may need to put boundaries around someone who normally likes to get the attention and the care, and there may be a little bit of emotional manipulation to deal with around this. For others, it may be healing yourself and telling yourself the sorts of things that you would tell others under a situation like this. And yet again, for others, it may be that you're seeing someone who's been heartbroken and who feels very invisible and very small, and your message is about, no, you're not, and there is so much to you, and don't let this affect you to that degree. So it's just a very interesting dynamic between those, because it suggests in some cases you're going through a lot, and in other cases you're empathizing with someone who's going through a lot. If this is around messaging for some creative scenario, then I think it's saying that you have a message from understanding and empathy of human nature about how to make people feel seen and heard. You could literally be doing this in some form of non-fiction writing, for instance, around therapy and around self-esteem and self-care and self-worth. Or you could be writing it in some form of a novel, or it could be in some other form of creative activity that you're doing. But if that's the case, it's about empathy, and it's about letting people feel good about themselves when they've gone through difficult times. I don't see a lot in this that's around work. I mean, it is possible that in a career situation, you could be trying to help someone who feels slighted or not seen, to give them self-esteem again, but it's really in that space. It's around self-esteem. So you're either helping someone or some group of people around self-esteem, or you're needing to do it for yourself, or you're needing to have time apart from somebody who wants all the attention when you need to heal as well. So we'll see what the cards bring up. We may find that one of those is the predominant feeling when we look at that. We may also find that there's a number of people who've come to this reading and that there are a number of scenarios that fit. So I'm firstly using a deck here which is chosen to look at the throat chakra because it is all blue. So it has that blue sort of energy around it. So I've very deliberately chosen that for that kind of energy. And we're first of all going to shuffle and ask Spirit around what more information they can give about what we're talking about here, what kind of message we're talking about, and then what advice they might give. And then we'll have a look at, using a different deck, how the message is likely to be received. So this is definitely picking up the sense of helping yourself or helping someone else who's been through a difficult time. We have the Wheel of Fortune reversed next to the star. So the Wheel of Fortune reversed suggests to me that you or another person feels as though something didn't work out the way that it was desired to be worked out. I suspect this is around relationship and around emotion because of the energy of those cards more than anything else. Because interestingly enough, the rest of the cards here are not particularly emotional as such. We aren't seeing Cups energy. We're seeing Swords, the Two of Swords reversed, which suggests that there's been some reluctance to express this. I'm not really surprised to see that, because I think if you've come to a reading on this sort of topic, it's going to be about something that's difficult to say in some way. So there's been a reluctance to make that decision and to express something or to decide how best to deal with it. And there's been a separation, a sense of standing apart, because we have the Nine of Pentacles. So it looks as though your usual default, pile one, when you're in a situation like this, is to sort it out and look after yourself, and not to interfere. So if this is around a friend or a relationship, it feels like you're not really sure whether you should come forward. You're not even sure whether that would be well taken from somebody because you are so used to standing on your own 2 feet. And if this is a message to yourself, it is about maybe you live so much in the practical world and in your head, you're not really allowing your heart to be seen. So we're literally seeing this as being a manifestation of your heart. But something has happened. Something has happened, and in a good way, in a way, because the Fool card is here. It's generating a different approach, an aha moment, a wanting to move forward and do something differently, a getting of wisdom almost. It has the sense of the Fool having returned, having gone through something, and the optimism is still there. So if this is to yourself, pile one, then I think what you need to express to yourself is that you can continue optimistically forward, that if there was a reversal of fortune, it is of its time and it doesn't affect you overall. You are a strong person. You're a person who knows how to manifest and materialize in the world. And all you have to do is make the decision, not sit in indecision, that you can do that you're not going to disappear because something didn't work out, whether it's a relationship or whether it's something in a career scenario or creatively. If this is about helping someone else, and I do think by and large it probably is for most, this is really again picking up that you've done the work, you understand this, you've probably been where this person has been, you've felt invisible sometimes. That's maybe why you've become such a self-made person with the Nine of Pentacles. So you know what you went through, you know how you came through it. And the only reticence I think at the moment is, do you say this to the person? You know, do you interfere? I think you would be you're very clear on boundaries. And so that's the hesitance around this. To step into being the advisor or the mentor of this person is a new role for you. But on the other hand, you do know that you can use, by your example and your wisdom, you know that you can bring hope back to this person. So I do think for many of you, it feels like there's a friend or a family member that you're trying to help, but you're not sure. You're not sure of the boundaries. The interesting thing around that, pile one, if that's the case, is that the reticence is the one thing that's a problem here, because if this is another person, the main threat around them at the moment, the main thing they're going through is that they feel invisible. They feel like people don't understand them and see them. So even just reaching out and offering some solace and some support, even if you don't necessarily say, I've been there too, you just let them talk, that may be the thing that works. And if this is creative, and for some of you it will be, because as I say, there is a sense of almost business and philosophy around these cards. So I think it is picking up for some of you, it might be something that you are producing to help others, or something that's in your career to help others. Then there is a new opportunity around you to produce something. And the Fool operates very well there, the optimism of the Fool and the Star. But it's your own decision about how to do it, how you want to present it, because it looks like maybe in that case you've tried to do that before and it didn't quite work out. It hasn't affected your capacity in your career or your reputation, but it's maybe that you've gone down this path one time before and it didn't quite work. So it's a sense of maybe writing a book and it didn't really land the way that you wanted it to. But I think if that's the case, Spirit is saying that you don't have to worry about becoming invisible. Your understanding about other people and how you can help other people, there's so much there to be optimistic and move forward with. And everything that you've done has been a learning experience. So turning your own empathy back to yourself allows you to do that. So let's ask for a few more cards that will give a sense about what Spirit's suggesting that you do with these energies, and then we'll have a look at how that is likely to be received by the other party. Okay, so firstly we have the Ace of Wands. So I think that Spirit definitely saying, and I think that connects with the Fool there, that there is an uprush of energy here, that taking action is what you need to do. Sitting in indecision and worry about the implications of what you're doing, because we have the Nine of Swords here, is not helping either you or the other people involved. So taking an action, because back your action is likely to be good, will definitely help. there is a kind of a trap of anxiety that I think you have about making the communication and the audience has about what's going on in their life, that at the moment is stopping, blocking the flow, blocking the new energy coming through. But in fact, there's a very strong relationship between you and the people. So if it's your public or your audience, you already have a lot of support and interest in what you're doing by people who really get it. And if this is around helping a friend, then there are definitely good people. You haven't kind of lost all that with the Wheel of Fortune reversing. It also gives me the sense that for some of you, again, it comes back to friendship. You know a friend has gone through something difficult. You've gone through something like it and you can help them. But the anxiety is about, how do I act? And Spirit is saying, just act. Back what you would do. Back your understanding. Your empathy is very strong for this person. But it's interesting because, as I say, I'm still not seeing cups. So although it's very emotional energy, it's being processed in a very practical kind of way. And it's more about just doing the action. So I think that Spirit's saying, whatever you do, just taking the action, just reaching out, that's going to have such a major effect in this situation. So let's use another tarot deck here. And we'll ask Spirit to give us a sense about what the response would be. If you take this action and you reach out to your audience, to your friend, to your family member, or even to yourself, though I think this is really other people by the looks of things, what is going to be the response from the other party? Okay, just going to push these up so that you can see them a little bit better. I can see here why there's some reticence, because it looks to me like the initial response, and we'll use some other cards to get a bit more information. It looks to me like the initial response will be a little bit ambivalent. It will be a bit of both, almost on two extremes, because on one hand, it looks like the person is saying they don't want their friends involved. They just want to be left alone. We have the Four of Wands reversed here. The action is to connect to the Four of Wands the right way up for you. But the first response of this person with the Four of Wands reversed and then the Nine of Pentacles, which for them is that sense of being able to stand on their own 2 feet, which you have as well. There is a sense there of, leave me alone. But they don't really want to be left alone. I have to say, if this is someone else, they don't really want to. But it's almost like the push that you do when you're really hoping that somebody will continue to push through. Because next to it, we have the Knight of Cups. They will find that as being a good emotional offer ultimately, but I don't think they show it originally. Now, I do need to say that if for some, I'm just getting that for some, this may be, remember I said there could be somebody who's demanding a lot of energy of you. This person may have a bit of a crush on you, may at the very least idolize you, but may well have a crush on you. So that may be part of it as well too. It may even in fact be something like an ex, and you're wanting to help them, but you don't want to start something. In some cases with the Knight of Cups there, once they've moved through this push away energy, it's almost like they want to then connect. Now, it doesn't have to be romantic, so it doesn't have to be a crush, but I am getting for some there could be that kind of interaction going on as well too. And if that's the case, then they're not feeling strong in themselves. We've got the sort of the Wheel of Fortune reversed there, and then we've got the Queen of Pentacles reversed. So they're not feeling stable, they're not feeling centered in themselves. They look for others to provide their sense of self-worth. And with the King of Cups reversed, they feel like people don't get them. And so there is a little bit of an issue here for you, and maybe that's why you have the concern about how to go forward, about how to maintain your own boundaries and your own sense of self while also helping these people and empathizing with the person or the people. So for some, there is maybe a confusion that occurs. So I think you need to be aware there's a side of them that is almost proud of their capacity to stand alone, but they really do want to connect with someone. They really do feel isolated in some way, and any show of kindness is going to potentially be very major for them. So I think this is part of understanding that. And possibly, since we have this Nine of Pentacles happening with them and with you, I think it may be understanding that you may be able to see in your own patterns when you've dealt with a broken heart or you felt invisible in some way, what it was that made you feel good in and of yourself. And I doubt that it was necessarily finding the next romantic relationship. It might have been, but that is not necessarily the way to help them. Now, if you are also looking at doing something like a self-help book or a self-care book or something like that for people, for an audience, this is a very classic sort of spread on that level, because it is saying that you need to balance your sense. People need to balance their sense of standing on their own with also having good relationships, but they need to be clear about what their boundaries and what that means to them with a relationship, to not move from one relationship that made them feel invisible to the next one in just that attempt always to find something. They do need to find themselves. So there's something in that. There's a balance. This is quite emotionally dramatic, but your approach generally tends to be philosophical and structured. Their approach tends to be more emotional, so be aware of that. Pile 1. Now, interestingly enough, there's a couple of oracle decks that I wanted to shuffle and pull cards for straight in the reading, as opposed to these which we'll finish off with, which is advice for you about handling it. And the first one is the feelings, a feelings oracle. So what I'm asking Spirit to give me is a little bit more information about how they will feel when you communicate with them. Well, that's actually very promising, because I was a little bit concerned, I have to say, about some of that energy, but it looks like you do have the dexterity you need to communicate in a way that keeps those boundaries clear and makes them focus on themselves rather than project onto you. Because in some ways that felt like a classic therapist with a patient who then sort of projects their emotions onto them. So it's not, I don't think it's going to be that. I think that you will be able to deal with that, because it looks like once you do it and you've found the right way to do it, you're opening up that Fool energy for them, and also the Star, because they're feeling ambitious, that they can actually be something and do something. They're feeling creative, that they can write their own story and that it is compelling and it's not going to make them invisible, and they feel confident. So I think that's good, as I was a little bit concerned there, but I do think that this is saying that you will be able to find the way to do that, that it's very important. And if this is you, as I said right at the beginning, if any of you are, that's you talking to you, then you know yourself very well, and you'll be able to process the emotions and be able to take that through. Plus, if you are a creative or a therapist or something like that, you have a very strong philosophical and structured framework. You have something that works. It is going to work. So that is really good. I also want to use the deck for a couple of things around healing. And this could be something that you need to heal in yourself, or it could be something that the other person needs to heal, but it's somehow connected to the energy of this communication, pile 1. Wow, okay. So we've got unleash your creativity and take off your masks. So I do think this is saying that some of you, this is something creative that you're doing, and I think it's Spirit saying, get on with it, do it. It is really worth doing. It's really going to work and help people a lot. But I also think that possibly for some of you, you may be dealing with a friend who hasn't got heartache from a broken heart. It's from they're trying to do something creative and they need encouragement. And part of it is you getting them to do that, because we've got them feeling creative there. So I think there's a connection. I think you're a great cheerleader, a great mentor for them. And that will help them. Taking off the masks, I think, is picking up that they do feel invisible, and maybe they don't feel that they can express things as well. So in a weird way, you trying to work out how to express this to them comes back to you as well too. They need to be more themselves. That's how they're seen. So I think these are healing energies that you understand that they need to do so that they can meet this creative and confident space. So let's have a look at the cards that were intuitively chosen for this particular reading ahead of time. So I'm going to start with ones that are around emotional connections, and then we'll finish with some energy around chakra, colour, and goddess strength energy. Okay, this is a really multi-layered reading, I have to say, because each time I put something down, we get something new. So at first it looked like helping friends, and I still think that could be the case. And then it looked like creativity, and I think that could be the case. This is also about balance and about closeness and so forth. So on one level, this could be you in your framework, if you're doing something creative, helping people to be able to be more healthy in their intimacy and to balance their masculine and feminine, yin yang, whatever sort of energy, or however you identify with that type of energy as well, and to feel true and authentic in themselves. For some, there is something maybe where the connection that you make may create a relationship, and so you have to be sure that you're happy with that. It may be this one down here when I was a little bit concerned about projection. It may in fact be that it's a good relationship, or you're helping them understand intimacy and healthy boundaries and healthy relationships more. So there's something around that as well too. And this again, I mean, intimacy, if you think about it, is such a core thing to people feeling less invisible. So it may just be helping them get that sense of themselves and what they want to draw into their lives and getting that into balance. But it could be that for some of you, this could be a relationship. But I think if that's the case, it's one that you wouldn't necessarily have expected. It develops out of what the communication is. But it looks good if that's the case. I think for most of you, though, you're helping people get to that. So let's finish up with a couple of cards which are about what energy you can use to best navigate all of this. Okay, so we've got Iris, which is in the purple spectrum, so that's sort of connecting to the third eye chakra, to spiritual connection. It's about journeying, path, and travel. So I think that this is that you are starting a journey. That's why we had the Fool right there. And whether that's an internal journey, whether it's a creative journey, whether it's a journey about learning how to take what you've learned in life and help others with it, there's something there. And there's a telepathic connection as well too. So you'll have a very good instinct for how to communicate with this person. So listen to that, listen to what you feel is coming from the universe and so forth, and move when you feel that you can move. Like make the decision, take the action, don't second guess yourself. And similarly, in a similar way, we've got turquoise, which is sort of between the throat chakra and the heart chakra, because it's the melding of green and blue. So it does fit with the communication, but this is about direction, point, and purpose. So there is something about this that heals your own heart to some extent as well, and which gives you a stronger voice with the throat chakra and a better direction and purpose. So I do think that many of you, this could become something creative, or it could become something that you do in your work or something like that, that your real capacity to do this, if you haven't realized it yet, this is going to really start to show that, and it's going to give you some direction and purpose. So I do think many of you are going to do something helping others, not just this person if it's a single person, but if it is a single person, then it is something that's a template for something more. This is about a journey you're going on. And if it is you helping yourself, then you have everything you need to do that. You just get back into that self-confidence, that knowledge of yourself, and you take the journey. You use the star energy to feel optimistic about it. So I hope that resonates for you, Pile 1, and I hope it gives you some advice about what this thing is that you need to express and to whom. If so, and you enjoyed the reading, please like the video and subscribe. And if you have any comments on it, I'd be really fascinated to hear about it in the comments below. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pile 2, to your reading. These two cards plus these pre-selected, intuitively selected oracle cards, which we'll look at the end of the reading, were under the crystal that you chose to come to this reading. And these are meant to represent you and your audience, whether it's another person, a group of people, etc., when we're looking at what it is in very broad terms that you might be needing to express. And then we'll use tarot and other oracle cards to delve more into that. This is interesting because this card for you looks as though you feel isolated, you're holding on to something. It has almost a kind of Four of Pentacles type feeling to it, of holding on to beliefs, possessions, people, whatever it might be, too tightly, because it talks about holding on way too tight. So there's a sense here that you want something to be something more than it is, to hold on to what you have and to move forward, but it's kind of getting you a bit stuck. So there's something in this energy about what you need to discuss, and the person that you need to talk with, or the people that you need to talk with, that is about how you move out of that sense of holding on too tight to what you have and move to the next level. So there's a sense here that you know in a relationship or in a work situation or whatever it might be, that you've kind of got a bit stuck and you feel a little bit alone because of that. And you're trying to work out how to reach out to someone else. And the interesting thing is the energy around the other person or the other people it's kind of similar, but for a different reason, because they have shallow grave and they miss someone. So it says you miss someone. So this has a feeling of you trying to establish a relationship with someone, move a relationship to a more clear and beneficial level for both of you, but they're kind of stuck in the past. So I've got to say the main feeling I get off this, what I think is the main energy, is possibly being in a relationship with someone, but they're still hung up on the past in some way, or dealing potentially with grief. There is the possibility, because this card can have grief around it, that you are trying to establish something with someone while they're dealing with grief from, a loved one passing on or something like that. That's very specific. It won't fit for everybody, but that card can sometimes pick that sort of energy up. So I feel like it's two people that are trying to hold on to something, and in a sense, so you're kind of reflecting each other, and you are needing to express what you want from that person and get them to focus on you rather than on the past, or I guess make the decision about whether or not what you're holding on to with is worth continuing with. So it will be interesting to see what the tarot tells us about this in more detail. Now, if this is about something in a work situation, then you have very strong views about something and others have a different view. So maybe you're trying to bring in something new and other people like what it was, and there's a impasse occurring. And again, the choice may be, can I convince the other person or people, or do I need to sort of recalibrate what I do or go to a different workplace or whatever? If this is something creative, then I feel like you have a particular way that you want to do something creatively, but the people that you're dealing with, again, and it might be agents, industry gatekeepers or something like that, they like a style that is different to yours. They like a more traditional style or a more traditional approach. That doesn't mean they're right, but there is a tension operating about who's right in this if it's not about relationship. And if it's about relationship, there's a tension about both of you are trying to push something to the next level, but whether it's the same thing is the question. So let's use tarot. So I'm using a particular tarot that is blue because I wanted to get the energy of the throat chakra particularly used in this. So we're going to ask Spirit to give us more information about what the nature of this communication is that you need to make, that you're trying to express. Then we'll ask Spirit for some advice about how to do that well. But first of all, let's get a little bit more information about what this actually is. Okay, so firstly, there's actually quite a strong work or creative energy to this. There is also romance and relationship because we have the Page of Cups, but I'll get to that. But this, we have the Six of Wands, which is about recognition, with the Knight of Pentacles, which is about material things, commitment, the workplace, and so forth. The Magician, which is about having the power and the destiny to be able to move things to your will. And we have the Seven of Wands, the courage to do it, with the Page of Cups. So I definitely think for some of the people that are coming here, it is about a creative project or a work project and being able to bring something into being. And if that's the case, Spirit is definitely saying you have the capacity to do that. It might be, though, if you're holding on too tight to something and you're not prepared to compromise a bit with the past, that's actually blocking your energy. So if you want the recognition, have the recognition for being loyal to the environment that you're in and being able to adapt to that environment and having the courage then to take something forward that's new. So if this is around something that you need to express at work, it's like you have what you need, you're on the right track, but you're not compromising quite enough. So some of this discussion needs to be about compromise and about looking from the other person's perspective. There's also the possibility because of the Page of Cups, that could be that this is a relatively new relationship that you're in with someone. And as I say, they're still focused on the past. Maybe you feel like you're being compared to somebody all the time. So you're feeling like you have to compete for recognition. So the Seven of Wands and the Six of Wands are kind of fighting with each other a bit around this. And you want to feel more commitment from this person and more a sense of a kind of a soul connection with the Magician there. If that's the case, then you need to use the energy of the Magician to communicate clearly, because the Magician, above everything, is a very, very good communicator. Very clearly what you want in terms of commitment and understanding from that person. That way you can make a decision about whether this is the right relationship for you, because for some reason they're still focused somewhere else. It doesn't mean necessarily, Paul, too, that they don't love you or that it couldn't be a relationship, but it's like they're hung up on something. The overarching sense in all of this is a kind of a push-pull of two different perspectives and two different ways of doing things. It could be that they're very traditional and you're a little bit more open, and commitment to you is not necessarily sort of a traditional thing, it's something else. Or it could be that, as I say, because they're still focusing on a past relationship, it's hard for you to really make that communication and get that commitment. So given that, let's have a look at what Spirit would say to you in terms of how to get that balance right, how to be able to be flexible enough yourself so that you're not holding on too tight to an expectation around this that's not realistic, but still get to what the Magician promises there, and the Page of Cups potentially promises as well. So this one definitely wanted to come out, so I'm putting that out. And then we have okay. So Spirit is saying use your intuition. So you've got the High Priestess and the Magician here. So you are highly intuitive. You really do have a sixth sense about these sort of things. You're probably very psychic. Pay attention to that. It's like there's almost like there's a battle going on here, Paul, too, within yourself as well, because there's a side of you that can be very much about what's the material manifest world. That's why that had almost a Four of Pentacles sense to it. Like, what does it really look like in the real world, and what can I trust in the real world? But there is a sense here of opening up to your intuition and understanding how much you really do get the right information around this. Because at the moment, the Ace of Cups is reversed. So whether or not you're feeling that this is a relationship that is right for the future, I think that's the decision. You need to have a conversation or express something to see whether it is, to see whether that ace, in fact, is going to move to the Page of Cups and further on or not. That's, I think, what you hope, but it's hard to say. And with the Ten of Wands reversed, you need to relieve yourself of carrying the burden of this. It feels like you are the one who is putting the commitment and the energy into the relationship, because this person is looking somewhere else. Like, it literally, they're looking away in that direction as opposed to you looking forward. So this is the thing. You need to look into your intuition, and I think use your intuition to have the conversation, to have the courage to have the conversation and work out whether this is going to work for you. So let's use another deck to ask what, and this one wanted to come out, to ask what the other person is going to, how they're going to respond when you have this discussion. Okay, so firstly we have the Ace of Cups reversed twice. So we have it in Spirit sort of saying this energy is around potentially and this energy is here. That could, I won't sugarcoat this, pile two, that could mean that the response is not what you'd be looking for and it kind of confirms some suspicions. That is possible. Having said that though, there is the Three of Cups the right way up here and there's the King of Wands, and it's very mixed, I guess is what I should say. So the Three of Cups would suggest on some level that you can communicate with them, and possibly it's best to communicate almost on a friendship level to start with, and they will respond. They will enjoy a sense of friendship around this. But they're still in a lot of pain about whatever this is, and I think you need to know that. It's like they haven't fully processed whatever this is. And if it is actually grief, then it is saying ease up a little bit and just go from a friendship level. That's likely to work quite well, because at the moment they're not feeling that. With the Three of Wands reversed, they're not feeling that you're on the same page. They literally may not be looking in the same direction as you, as I say. But they're confident in a way, and they like action. So it is possible that they will very much appreciate and respect you for having the conversation, and they will see that as a very good sign. It's just that whether you fully understand how much they were hurt before, I just feel like this person is carrying something from the past. I'm not sure if they're going to process this yet, but there is a possibility. There is a possibility that they will see this as a way out of the pain and start to think, is it possible to care again? But at the moment, their ego is largely being supported by, I can stand on my own 2 feet, even though in reality they want a relationship as much as you do. But whether it's with you or something from the past, or whether they can let go of the past, it's a real push-pull. So you may find it very hard to read what their response is, and it may go through a number of stages. There may be an initial push away. No, I'm fine. Don't tell me, I'm not ready, wait, etc. And then they may think, well, actually, that means someone cares about me. And they start to think, can that bring me out of this dark phase? That's probably the best way it could occur, that they come to a realization. But it is a bit equivocal. So again, I think Spirit was saying, pay attention to what you feel as to whether we end up with the Ace of Cups reversed or we end up with the Three of Cups in a celebration working through. And you'll probably have to give it a bit of time, having started the dialogue. Don't expect a lot back to start with, I think. Now, if this is around something creative or around work, then I think you will have, in work, I think you will have people around you who are on your side and people who just aren't. But somebody, I would say, can see the value in what you're doing, if that's the case. It's just that there's a lot of conflict, I think, around the workplace in general. If that's the case, it's not just about you. And if it's creative, then I think there will be some real joy to come out of what you are going to do. If you're doing something creative to help people move past pain, then I think that you will be able to celebrate in having started to achieve that, and people will see the value in it. But there may be some critics again. So there's a very equivocal nature about this. I think Spirit just wants you to know that's the case. So I want to use a couple of not pre-intuitively selected cards, just in the energy of the reading itself. And the first one is an oracle that's around feelings. So I want to ask what the person will be feeling when you have this communication with them, because it might give us a little bit more clarity on these cards. Okay, so that's very positive. It does suggest that even if they don't instantly show it to you, because I don't know that they will be really listening to you. So I think it is moving into that better energy. I think what you're doing will help with the better energy for them and possibly for the two of you together, if that's what you're wanting. And I think it's really picking up this King of Wands. There's something in the way that you're going to do it. They'll feel it's very honest, and they'll feel that they can be honest and can be living with integrity. They'll also be inspired about what you're saying. So I think you really will help to heal them and bring them out of this sort of focus on the past. Whether or not you decide in the end to stay with them in a relationship is another matter. That's going to be up to you. But I think you will inspire them with your example, and they will feel a new rush of energy and a new rush of confidence. So you are dealing with someone who's quite wounded, and I think that's what you need to be aware. And that does look very positive. That does look like, even if you're the initial pushback occurs, they will really think about this and they will really start to appreciate what you've done. And then I think it's more your decision about what happens going forward. So another oracle I wanted to use in the energy of the reading before looking at the pre-chosen ones is around what needs to heal around this. And this could be you, or it could be the other person, or both of you. Okay, so firstly, what needs to heal around is healing. So there, I think there is healing for both of you. I think this is for both of you because you're holding on fairly tightly to something, not sure if it's what you want, is it going to be what you want it to be? And they're needing healing from the past. And until they heal from the past, it's very hard to tell. Though, as I say, there's some very good indications that this could, in fact, move in the right direction from your perspective. It's interesting that temptation's there. It's possible that for some of you, this person from the past is still hanging around a bit. So maybe one of the things, maybe they play with this person a bit and they kind of always sort of hold out the potential that something could occur. So being aware of that, if they're having that energy around them, and understanding that they need to be healed from that temptation as well, because it's illusory. It's like this ghost lover here. Just being able to empathize with that and understand it may help this. It may also be you healing from the temptation of them if it doesn't resolve and move in the direction that you want. But at the end of the day, if that's the case, then you will have healed. You will have actually worked out this isn't going to give me back what I want. I am feeling a little bit more confident for you than I was. I do think that there is a really good chance for most of the people who come to this reading that this will, in fact, move in the right direction and you will be able to help heal them and then bring them closer to you. Or if it's in a workplace or something else like that, you will be able to inspire and bring people along with you and move your ideas and concepts forward. But for some, there is something about another person, a third party. So let's finish up with the other oracle cards that were with the crystal at the beginning. So I'm going to start with ones that are about love. Now, it doesn't mean that it has to be a love relationship, though I think in many cases that's what we're looking at here. But it's broader. It's about love on a broader level. Okay, so firstly we've got resolving conflict. So that definitely does pick up both a love situation, like if there's conflict operating between you and the other person because this past stuff hasn't been sorted out and you're not sure whether it can be yet, then this is another good sign that you can help the healing process and start to resolve that and bring it into a better level. So that's great. It also suggests for anybody where there is something about work or family or something like that, where there's conflict going on there, that your communication is going to help to resolve that. The important thing is to stay true to your emotional heart. So the sacred woman is like the divine feminine. It's the concept of nurturing, caring, and so forth. It does give the sense that you are the healer in this situation. Even though I think you're carrying your own wounding, you are the healer. You are the natural healer for this and the natural conflict resolver. So you have the energy that you need to do it. It is going to depend in the end about what confidence, inspiration, and moving forward means to the other person. But that then gives you the sense about what you want to do, or the other people if it's in a workplace, for instance. So I want to finish up with another oracle that uses sort of colour energy, so a bit like chakras and colour from the Kabbalah and colour in general, to just give you last pieces of advice from Spirit to have the confidence to be able to move forward and have the discussion that you need to have. Okay, so firstly we have Rose, and that I think covers a couple of chakras. It covers the root chakra, so that sense of stability and who you are in the world, and I think that goes back to that almost Four of Pentacles, holding on to who you are. And it is important to hold on to who you are and your authenticity, but I think you will do that. It's about working out where to be flexible. But it also connects to the heart chakra, and Rose talks about emotions, love, and unity. So you are very much a unifier. You are very much someone who does resolve conflict. You're someone who connects. And I think that the primary issue around this right from the beginning is connecting with someone who's still looking elsewhere for some reason or wants to do things differently for some reason. But Spirit is saying, hold to that love, hold to your vision of love. Whether this is ultimately the person in the end, you will work out, you will know. The magician and the high priestess in you that came before will know. And speaking of the magician and the high priestess, you also have orchid, which is in the colour spectrum of the third eye. So it's psychic, it's picking that up again. You have a very finely tuned psychic antenna. And this talks about being rare and uncommon and unique, and it is okay to be who you are. If this person ultimately wants something different to you, or if it's a workplace or creative connections or whatever, and they don't recognize what's rare and uncommon and unique in you, you can stand in your own truth and your own being. You will have done everything you can do to see if you can get them out of being stuck in a groove, but at the end of the day, you make that decision. And I think that's the overarching sense for this whole reading, pile 2, which is that as long as you are flexible enough to try to reach out and use all those skills that you have, you can test the waters of this, and it will either work out very well, and I think in many cases it will, or it will work out that this, you actually realize this isn't the thing to hold on to and you move on. So I hope that that is helpful. It's a little bit of a challenging reading, but I do think that you have what you need to go through this and to have the discussion that you need. Be aware that the first reaction may not be that clear, but that it will work its way through and you will get the information that you need to make decisions. I hope you enjoyed the reading, even if it was a little bit heavy. And if so, please like the video and subscribe. And if you have any comments or thoughts on it, I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 3, to your reading. These cards plus these sitting to the side, which we'll use at the end of the reading, were under the crystal that you chose to come here, so were pre-intuitively chosen for this particular reading. These two, to start the reading, are meant to represent you and then your audience, to give a sense about what is the overarching nature of the communication we're talking about, which we'll then drill into in more detail with tarot and other cards as we go through the reading. This is a really interesting combination because it feels as though for some of my pile 3, you have a sense that there's someone out there that you could connect with, but you haven't necessarily found them yet and you're trying to work out how to do it. And for others, you may have an intuition about somebody that they're on your wavelength much more than the people that you're generally around. So this communication is about how to find that, how to clarify that, how to make that connection or prove that connection in some way. And the reason I say it is the first card for you is the Violet Duchess, and this is a card that comes up when you feel stifled and bored and stuck in convention and like you have to put on a particular display or act a particular way for people, and it's not really who you are, and you're really looking to how you can speak your truth in some way. So I think many of the people who've come to this reading, whether it's in a workplace, whether it's around your family, whether it's with your friends, whether it's with relationships in general, you just feel like you have to continually put on this show, but you're not allowed to be true to who you are. Maybe you have even experienced when you've tried to say your truth, speak your truth, that people have not understood you, or they've pushed back, or they've liked you the way you were, and could you just please do that? If this was something creative, for instance, then it could be that you want to change and mix up what you're actually doing. And other people are pushing back and going, no, do the same. It's worked before, do the same. If this is around relationships, it's like, this is how we act and this is what relationships are like and this is the right person for you and this is the cultural connection for you. This is the gender preference for you, whatever it might be. And it's not true to you, and you really want to find the people or the person. So it could be in a one-to-one relationship, a love relationship, or it could be just finding your tribe. And you know somewhere they're there. So you've either met someone who comes across as the winged seer because they're clairvoyant, they see clearly, they see the truth, they see you. They see you. So either you've come across that person and you're trying to, how do I really make that connection? Because I know this person gets me and I don't know really how to clarify that and make sure that that's true and that I'm not just imagining it. Or you have a sense out there that there is somebody who would understand you, that's on the same path, and you want to work out how to reach out to them. So I'm almost getting two things. One is that you have come across someone, and maybe for the first time in a long time, maybe the first time in forever, you feel truly seen and you want to work out, how do I move this forward? Because it might be that you have a sense this person sees everybody clearly, and how do you get that connection that you want? Because this is something you're starving for. You're starving for somebody who will really understand you, and you found someone, and you're probably right about it, but how do you take that to whatever type of relationship? And it doesn't have to be a love relationship. It could be a friendship. It could be a colleague. But how do you really progress that? And how do you get that sense back from them as well? And the other thing I think is someone who hasn't found that yet, but knows that must be out there and is trying to think about how to reach out. And so then I'm thinking of, you go online, you find communities that connect with you, all of that sort of thing. You know that someone or some people out there are right for you and will see you clearly. And where and how do you do that? So this is about finding the right communications with the right people to be seen. And if this is creative, it's finding the right audience. If it's at work, it's finding the right workplace. But I do think it's a very positive sign. We have the winged seer there. I think it is Spirit saying you are on the right track if you feel that part of being able to speak your truth is to find the right audience or the right relationship. So I think that's quite powerful. So let's use tarot. So I'm using a tarot that has blue cards because I chose that specifically because that picks up the energy of the throat chakra, so communication. So we're just going to shuffle and ask Spirit to give us a little bit more information about this communication, what it is that you need or want to say and how to say it. Okay, so Spirit is definitely saying you're right, that there are the right people for you, that you are coming to a point where by communicating you can come out of feeling alone and isolated, because the Five of Pentacles is there but it's reversed. So when it's reversed, you're coming out of that sense of being stuck and being isolated and so forth. It's interesting too because the Four of Pentacles, of course, comes before the Five, and that is that sense of ennui and boredom, which there is a little bit of that for you as well too. So Spirit is saying that you have progressed along that pathway. You are ready to move out of that cycle. And the judgments, because judgment is here, that you are making about that are right. And I think it's saying on two levels. One is that there is something about your circumstances at the moment where you are being forced by others, consciously or not, to fit a role that doesn't fit you, and that you have almost suppressed in yourself or been suppressed by others being who you truly are. Because we have the King of Wands reversed and we have, the King of Wands reversed and the Knight of Wands reversed. So that's your sense of creativity, that's your sense of ego, that's your sense of who you are. The fact that they're both reversed suggests that you are far more developed in that, and you should be far more confident than you possibly feel that you are. And I think that's because you're in the wrong environment, and this is saying you're in the wrong environment. By making some decisions to move out of that with the Judgment card, you will then find the Six of Pentacles, which is the more reciprocal, the more balanced, the better sort of relationships. So they're saying you're right. So if you are thinking about a particular person here, then they're definitely saying that understanding what you have in common and reaching out to them, making that judgment and taking that opportunity is important. When you get the Judgment card, that is a decision that almost has a time clock on it. So you do want to think through this. If there is someone already around you like this, you don't want to delay necessarily. You want to make that connection because you're going to find that there really is. They do see you clearly, and I feel like they see you positively. It's not seeing you clearly and not accepting what you're doing. They're different like you are, and they do see you. So there's very much a strong sense of, yes, reach out. Try not to let your sense of confidence get in the way, because you have suppressed your confidence a bit, but the energy is now to come out and to be true to who you are. That's a better relationship. And if this is sort of something you have a sense around it, then it's about making the judgments about where to put your energy. Whether, as I say, it's like starting a blog or joining some online communities or going and joining a social group or a social cause in some way that's more true to you than maybe what your background is. You will find that. Spirit is saying that. So let's ask for a little bit more advice from Spirit about if you do make that decision to reach out to either a already identified person or to a group of people or a community group or whatever it might be, what's the best way to do that for you? This one definitely wanted to come out, and so did this one. So it's interesting, we've got the Four of Cups. So as I said, we had the Four of Pentacles, which is that sort of being bored and caught and sticking to the past and sticking to what you have and not wanting to move forward. And then we have the Four of Cups reversed. So that's also the emotional ennui as well. So we've got that four operating in a sense twice, one as a following on from the Five of, or the preceding the Five of Pentacles, and now Spirit saying, understand that, like leverage that sense, because you're right. You're not in the right space at the moment, and don't think it's something wrong with you. Understand that you're right about that. And it may require, because we've got another four here with the Four of Swords, taking a bit of time out. So I feel like Spirit is saying you have a lot of people in your ear all the time, a lot of people having expectations of you. So it's important to give yourself some boundaries and some time out to do what you need to do. Because with the Ten of Cups reversed, you're not getting the return on your emotional investment at the moment that you should. So I just think Spirit's just saying over and over, you're right. You're not being, dramatic about this. You're not being selfish about this. You're not doing something that you shouldn't be doing. You really do know who you are, and you are looking for people who will accept that, and it's the right thing to do. So let's use another deck and look at, if you do make this communication either to a person if you know who it is, or group of people if you know who it is, or you take time out and you determine who they are and then you make the approaches, how is that going to be received? Interestingly enough, and I'm going to push this forward, I think you're going to find that the people that the person or people that you talk to will have gone through a very similar journey to you. And the reason I say that, firstly, we have judgment in both places. So you are making quick judgments, so will they. I don't think that they're going to be negative judgments, but they've been around a similar sort of drama and had a similar sort of issue with the Ten of Swords reversed around their self-esteem. They were different, unique, a bit unusual, and it possibly is true because they're clairvoyant and all that sort of thing. They have had to stand on their own 2 feet with the Nine of Pentacles for quite some time. It's like they've gone through a similar thing to you, and they're just a little bit further along the pathway in standing in their truth, and they're going to recognize that. They're going to quickly recognize that. And there's definitely a sense of, yes, you belong here, we can work together, we can be together, whatever it is that you're looking for. I do think for most of this it doesn't feel romantic, but I mean it could be for some, but with a lot of you it's more about finding the people who have the same purpose, the same sort of sense of the world, and who really get you, and they feel that you really get them too. So it's a reciprocal thing, it's a reciprocal energy. But they may be a little bit dramatic in the way that they do things. They may, but I just get the sense they say, oh, thank God, Yes, I agree with you. It's so good to find someone who sees the world the same way that I do, who understands who I am, or it's wonderful to have another person in our group to deal with what we're dealing with, if it's a social cause or something like that. So there is a real sense of connection. There's a real sense of, yes, we are similar. But interestingly enough, they also say they are also separate. So I think part of their messaging to you will be, yes, we connect, but yes, we're also different, and that's what's wonderful. What you're coming from, and what I think they may have come from earlier, is an environment where the only way that you would be recognised is if you were the same. So they very much value diversity. They very much value something that's different. And so that's going to be part of it. So let's use a couple of oracles that weren't pre-chosen for the reading. So the first one is to give me a sense about what they'll feel as you make this communication and this connection. Okay, so this, you know how I said that I thought they've been through the same thing? I think that some of what they feel when they first have this connection is it reminds them of that, because we have unhappy, I will rise, and anxious, my nerves won't get the best of me. So I do think that they will, you take them in a way back to where they were, but then they've also, with the Nine of Pentacles and the King of Wands, done that journey. So they don't stay there. They stay in the positive thing, but you remind them of that. That's why I have that sense of the synergy between you. But there's also intoxicated. So it is possible that for some of you, this will be a love relationship or a very powerful relationship. Or if it's with a group, they will be really happy and really pleased that you are joining them, because it's releasing low vibrations. It's sort of moving into a very happy space. But I think the feelings that you evoke is empathic, and also reminds them, if it's a person, they've been through the same journey. If it's a group, they've been through the same journey. And that's part of what makes them see clearly. You probably are clairvoyant or see clearly as well. You are part of them, and you will see that. But that's why I think there might be a little bit of drama at first. They're kind of like almost over the top about it, but it soon settles down. It's not something to be concerned about. So, given that I think both of you have been through a very similar path, another oracle that I wanted to look at was healing energy in this sort of communication. So this could be healing energy for you, or it could be for them or both of you. So let's see what Spirit wants to bring to the fore with that. Okay, Spirit's doubling down on the love bit. So I do, even though I do feel with many of these, this is more about having a similar cause and being similar, and wanting to live with diversity and acceptance and everything. I do think with many of you it may develop into a love relationship, or you may find love through this. There's a very strong heart connection at the very least that will occur with this. And it's because both of you can say what you mean, or the group can say what it means and you can say what you mean. There's an honesty there, which is of course a very good balance for love. But I do think for some of you, so if you've seen someone and you feel they've seen you and you think there could be a love energy, I think you're right. But it's because it's the road less traveled and you've both been on it, and there's that real synergy. And if you're clear about what you mean and about what you feel or what you think, then I think it could very much develop in that way. So that's very positive. That's what you came to this reading for. So last but not least, I want to look at the other cards that were pre-selected for this reading. So the first ones are about love, or about loving feelings and connection and so forth. Okay, so that's very positive. So there will be an inner peace. You're going to come out, if you make this discussion, if you reach out with whatever you do, whether it's to a group or to a person, you are going to find inner peace. You are going to be able to be more authentic to yourself. So that's really lovely, and it brings in abundance. So for any that it is around career or around community groups or something, there is an abundance. For others, it may be an abundance that is love. So that's a very nice energy. So the last cards for this reading are pick up color energy, goddess energy, chakra energy, that kind of thing. So the intent of these cards are around Spirit's last advice for you, support for you, and a kind of a cheerleader thing from Spirit for what you bring to the table in this. Well, this is very much cheerleading. So firstly, we have lemon, which is kind of in the chakra sort of color thing. It's sort of between the solar plexus, which is your self-esteem and your power in the world, the yellowy color of that, and then the green of the heart chakra. So there's a connection of that. And this talks about clean, fresh and new. So number one, you're going to move out of this state of feeling stale and bored, but you're also bringing literally a breath of fresh air. I wouldn't be at all surprised if this person or someone in the group may say literally that you're like a breath of fresh air, because you are bringing yourself and your authentic self to it. And then there's also purity to what you do. So that connects to the crown chakra. So I do think that both of you have psychic ability, and you're probably or you and these people do. So there's maybe a spiritual community that you're finding if it's not an individual person. That's directly connected to the divine, angels, purity, radiance. So you were meant to get to this point where you were fed up and know that you're kind of being restricted in some way, so that you will reach out and find the people that you are meant to be with, or the person that you're meant to be with. And you will get there, I think. And I think it will be just as healing and as wonderful for them as it is for you. So I think that's very positive, pile 3. I hope that you enjoyed the reading. I hope that it resonates for you and gives you the confidence to go forward and speak your truth and be authentic, because I think that's all that's required of you. And if so, please like the video and subscribe. And if you have any comments on this, I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings.